Today, we are going over insecure Asian comedians with Awkwafina and Bobby Lee. So let's start.
So you started off. How did you start?
You're from Queens, right?
I'm from Queens, yeah. I wrote a song, like I started learning GarageBand when I was like 16 when it came out.
Yeah.
And I was really into like making hip hop beats, and I eventually learned Logic and Ableton. So I wrote that song when I was like 19 and like in college, and 6 years later I was working at like a publishing house, and it was a kind of shitty job, and my boss, someone was like, let's make this a video, like let's turn it into a video, and I was like, I can't because I like work at this job and it's embarrassing and I'm trying to like, you know, and so he was like, well, why don't you just wear glasses?
Yeah.
And I was like, totally, that makes sense.
Love this origin story.
My boss ended up finding out about it and then like kind of fired me.
No.
Yeah.
Kind of fired.
So she was 19 when she wrote this song. We'll take a look at a clip of the video. It's called My Vag.
Nice.
V-A-G. And so she wrote the song when she was 19. I think when she was 26, someone was like, let's make a video. And she was like, no. Like, then they're like,
I'm trying to be serious.
yeah. And they were like, just put on glasses. And she's like, okay. So let's take a look at My Vag, the video that got her fired.
My veg got a big ass gun. Your veg is like pineapple cottage cheese. Yo, my veg got 12-inch gold wheels, and yo veg got bird poop on a windshield. My veg beats yo veg by a million. Yo veg is frightening like Serena Williams.
Your badge is frightening like Serena Williams and a tennis ball popped out. Okay, so that's how Awkwafina started. She wrote a song called My Vag at 19, filmed a video.
And the video
like 6
went
years
viral.
later, semi-viral. But then eventually, yeah, she got Ocean's.
Enough to get her fired.
Right. But eventually, she booked a movie, Ocean's 8. Which, if you guys don't know, it's like Ocean's 11, 12, and 13 was like the
Yeah.
original trilogy. The reason why they didn't make another one is because Bernie Mac died. And
I
so
was
they were never going to go past 13. So Ocean's 8 is like the remake with an all-female cast.
all
right.
girls.
It's like Kate Blanchett
Yes.
and Sandra Bullock,
They're
Awkwafina.
like, we don't need 13 people.
Right.
We're women. We just need 8.
And Awkwafina is one of the 8. And that's a huge deal to be one of the 8 in an Ocean's movie, or one of the people in an Ocean's movie. So let's take a look at...
Is Julia Roberts in it?
No, she was in Ocean's 11
I
through
know.
13, but I don't think she wasn't in the new one.
Oh, okay.
So they talk about this movie and her getting it, and like this sort of like imposter syndrome that she still feels like she suffers from, and like
Yeah.
even at her level of success, like she feels like it's undeserved. So let's take a look.
Was that the biggest movie you've done then? Up until that point?
Yeah.
Ocean's
Were you
8.
nervous?
Before we started, I was having like, I do this thing where like, I'm never happy. Like I'm always very, like whenever something cool happens, I'm always like, yeah, but will it be cool? You know?
Are you Bobby Lee?
Exactly.
Because that's exactly what he
Yeah,
does.
Like that.
Yeah, you are? Okay. I can.
You know, I think a lot of Asians are like that actually, and I think it's
like a cultural philosophy, a false philosophy that's in our culture.
well, I think it's a form of managing expectations where you don't want to be let down, and so you want to like just kind of wait until like things are like completely fulfilled, but then. There's a
How
point.
is it ever completely fulfilled?
No,
Like,
right, and-
it's like stoicism, but to a
Yes.
almost a negative extent. It's
When you say how can it ever be completely fulfilled, I think that's where it becomes detrimental, because when you're constantly like pushing down your expectations, then you don't really know what it's like to have like realistic expectations.
or downplaying every victory. You never give yourself that victory hooray type of thing, or like let yourself
enjoy
fully
it,
experience
accept it.
yes a success.
Yeah.
Then it's like you'll never reach your definition of success, and then those old people end up turning around being like, I wish I was happier.
That's crazy, because like if I was a comedian, or I'm sure like as an Asian comedian, if I looked at Bobby Lee or Awkwafina, I'd be like, they made it. Like that's a success story, right? It's like if I can be as
There's
half
always
as
a step.
successful as them.
There's always the next step.
But then even they're saying like
there's always-
they don't feel it. Like they don't feel like they're successful. Like they feel like they're imposters. I think it's so interesting. So let's keep going.
I can maybe sense that a little bit. I mean, maybe it's like
my
a-
show got picked up.
There's a sort of pessimistic.
It's a-
vibe,
it's a-
yeah.
Totally
And they got the
pessimistic.
call. It got picked up, and I'm like, yeah, but it's mid-season. Like, yeah, but it got picked up. Yeah, but only 7 episodes.
I do the same.
And I feel like God's going up there going, okay, well, you're off the list because you're an ungrateful piece of shit. But do you think that's Asian?
I think
I don't. Yeah.
you know, my grandmother, you weren't allowed to celebrate any good things. Like
Yeah.
you have to stay humble and say you can lose this, so don't over celebrate.
Right.
So you gotta like keep it low key.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
No, I think you know what.
You know why I think
Try
a lot
not
of
to be disappointed, I think.
no, but I think a lot of Asian parents think that way because they came from like if you came from like Japan or Korea or like China, you came from a place that was like really poor. Or a place where things were already taken from you or you didn't have anything. So the expectation was like you have to work hard because things can just be like taken from you at any
Like
time.
It's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Or poverty mindset, almost.
Right. And so you see that in like it's just taught to like the next generation like how to survive like that because that's how they survived.
Well, I think there's also just an inability to process emotions. Like, you don't have to be extreme in your emotions, but when some people are, I feel like Asian culture looks down on that. Like, you need to have more self-control over your excitement or your
The priority
sadness
is like
or your-
survival, right? Over like your emotional well-being. And I think that's where a lot of that's the
don't
generational
know.
gap between like the young people who like want to be like emotionally healthy versus like the parents who just want them to get a job to survive.
to like grow up.
Right. And it's like that's why it's like you can't celebrate too much or like, you know, be too happy because of that scarcity mindset. Like you have to constantly like be prepared to like not, be prepared to lose everything because it could happen at any time.
But then why can't you just let that happen? Like, why prepare?
Because
why
I
do you
think
have
for
to
the
prepare
parents'
yourself
generation,
emotionally?
that's life or death. If they lose everything,
yes.
it's like they're done. And that's why it's like they can never think that they have enough. But that's why, I feel like, all three of them, like none of these people are related and they grew up like across the country, but they all have a similar story with like their parents, like
Well, I
ingraining
think it's
this.
also with immigrant
Yes.
parents.
But I think specifically with like that part of Asia who like come like with a generation, like the previous generation just coming out of like a war torn area, it's
where they're like running with.
it's
just
so much more
what's on
traumatic
them.
for them. And they instill that in their kids because it's like you can never go back to that.
But it's like, what are we running from?
Yeah.
Ends up just being ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It is. I think it's like it's part. I think the Asian aspect is like an imposter syndrome thing built in. I think there's like a very deep seated insecurity and also a fear that I think was instilled to me by my grandma, who like was worried about money all the time and like worried about things like that. That this will pass. So the moment is fleeting and you have there's no future. So very much
Moment is fleeting, so enjoy
I'm very
it.
like a communist era, like Chinese person, like
Yeah.
thinking about dooms. Like, I want to keep my cash in a mattress because I don't even trust Chase. You know what I mean? And who knows how long that,
Yeah.
She's the communist era China.
Yeah. Who
Isn't
like,
that right now?
yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that
that's
just
true.
China?
Yeah. There's, I thought it was interesting how she said there's like this, like, like this built-in imposter syndrome for Asians. And I think it's just like,
Well, you have to remember these are Asian Americans.
sure.
So imposter syndrome in a lot of immigrant children is big because, especially if they don't look
Maybe that's what she means. Like,
American,
yeah.
like what most people. Because I'm like, people are like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "American." They're like, "No, where are you from?" I'm like, "Orange
Right.
County." Like, well, I don't know any other place. I don't know where do you. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, your culture or whatever. I'm like, even our parents aren't
Uh-huh.
comfortable going back to the Korea because they left so long ago that they're more
Even- yeah,
American now than they are Korean.
Korean,
Only Korean Americans recognize that, though. When we say that, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're not Korean." But I'm like, we're stuck in this weird middle part where it's like you're not either. And so imposter syndrome is very real among people of color in
Yeah, actually I think any immigrant probably in any country that's not that
Doesn't look
looks like the
the people
minority.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah,
look like the
yeah, the
majority.
majority of-
They probably have that like a very similar imposter syndrome like gate to get over.
yes.
Wait, what else? And then she said, yeah, she feels like yeah, I think a lot of how we learn about like money and how to value things comes from our parents. And
Of
so
course.
like, yeah, just like this message of like you like it all might just go away. It's almost like
Because they've seen that happen. They
Yeah.
saw their parents build up and then lose everything
yeah.
during the war, So for them, it's very real. For us, it's like, but we're here and we're like, what? Why are we acting like,
Yeah.
So
So they talk about road rage specifically, and apparently both Awkwafina and Bobby have road rage. So let's take a look at this.
Koreans have a lot of rage.
What, you have rage?
Well, that kind of road rage, and the person sitting next to me is always like, why don't you just chill out? And it's like, are you the one? Are you the one? Are you the one right now? Yeah. Because it's like easy to be like, okay, just like calm down. You're like, are you on your phone right now? Are you on Instagram right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't deal with it. I have rage. I have uncontrollable rage.
You do.
Yeah.
Do you lash out on other people or just to yourself?
To
Well,
yourself.
to whoever's like immediately around me. I have a lot of self-doubt all the time.
Oh my God, you're just like me.
Yeah.
So
But
when
that's cool though, because we might win the race.
what is that? What do you mean?
Because we're like the cock.
No, I need to
Tell
know
me about this race.
No, I need to know about the race.
No,
I didn't know I was in the race. I'm in.
Well, the race of life with
Yes.
a Y. But I feel like the thing is like, if you expect things to go well and they don't, they never will. So I almost feel like it's a good luck charm to be pessimistic.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I go like this. I go, you know what? This is gonna fail, and if it does, then I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But what happens when it's a success
and then
we're still
it's
assholes?
even worse. When it's a success, you're like, oh my God, it's a success. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, okay, she said her advice was if you expect things to go well, then they never will. And so
No. She doesn't. Wait.
I think that's what she said. Yeah, in the beginning, that's what she said. And then, that's why they're saying, like, if you always expect things to not go well, then you'll never be disappointed. But then they say when things go well, it's even worse. And it's like, yeah, it's worse because you didn't prepare for it. You only prepared for things not to go well or expected things not to go well.
I feel like they really don't want to disappoint. They don't like feeling disappointed.
Right, but then
And they're setting themselves up to, like you said, they're not prepared for the success, so
right.
they're already like defeating themselves almost.
It's almost like, okay, your self-doubt is already so big that you don't think that you can become a success. And I feel like once you become a success, your self-doubt magnifies. It doesn't get smaller because you didn't even think you belonged there in the first place.
Now what?
And so it's like this self-doubt is like this never-ending like I don't know. It's like a hole that just keeps getting bigger the more successful you get. If you didn't even believe that you belonged there to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Like Bobby Lee has been like on TV for like decades, and like
I know, but I think he also just has some traumas that he hasn't
yeah. I mean,
fully processed because,
oh, we'll get into that. I have that clip too.
Not wanting disappointment or it's like.
But yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I think self-doubt is very common, but like I feel like people should try to expect success too, because it's not like it doesn't change the outcome. Just because you plan for success doesn't change the outcome, You can plan for both and the outcome's going to be same regardless.
Yes. But
Okay.
that's the thing. They're just trying to manage that disappointment that I don't know where they're.
I know. Okay, so they get into it. They one of them asks them like, "Do you feel good inside?" So let's take a look at this.
Do you feel good inside?
No.
Worse. He'll always come home. They
What?
didn't like me. They didn't like me. They didn't like me.
know.
Well, do you feel? Well, why do you think they like you?
He has an alcoholic's
Because
or
I
an
have
addict's sense of thinking.
because I'm a drug addict, and
okay.
this is what and I've always been like this as a kid. If I walk into a party, and this is narcissism, right, and self-centeredness, I already immediately think that everyone in the party hates me,
Yeah, me too.
right? So when I'm on a set and I'm acting and I see Video Village,
So a video village is where when people are shooting, like there's like cameras and like there's the action crew, but then all of the camera feeds goes to monitors it's called a video village. And so the director and the producer and all of the people who are watching the scenes get to watch it from there. They don't have to watch, as it being shot. They just see what's directly coming through the cameras.
Yes.
So when he says video village, that's what he's talking about.
all the producers and directors are all huddled in a tent.
It's very intimidating.
They go like this, action, I'll go, cut, and I'll sit there like this, and in my peripheral, I'll see them, and they're talking, and I think that they're saying the worst shit about me. Can we get
well, that
criticizing.
seems
Call Ken
like
Jung?
Call Ken Jung.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so he calls it out as narcissism. He says it's like it's narcissism, it's self-centeredness, but then
Without
he also
confidence. It's
But right, the thing he said before that was like, I'm a drug addict, and I think he identifies himself as like his lowest identity.
well, the one that he's most ashamed of, or
Yeah, I
trying
know,
to
but
like
he
knock
doesn't-
off, but he still takes on that identity.
Yeah, he doesn't
even though
give
he's
himself
not taking any drugs.
the benefit of the doubt that people can see more than that. And I think
Yes,
that's why
they
he
can
gets
only-
that.
He's so focused on his flaws.
He's so focused on his flaws
That
that
everybody-
he thinks everyone else is focused on the same flaws, and that's like, I don't know. That
I
that
wonder
might
if he got
be-
any encouragement when he was young, or if it was always just like, why can't you be like this?
It's available, right, in my head. And then they come up to me, they go, great job, we're going to move on. I go, you deception. It's deception. It's
I
shadow
know.
play.
Propaganda.
Shadow play. They're playing in shadows.
Man, that's so.
Now
it's
they're
like,
now they're not gonna tell you because it's so bad.
he's like paranoid that like people don't like him. All right. Well, he asks. They talk about their parents and if their parents are proud of them.
Well, I
Are your
think
parents proud of you?
another thing with Asian Americans, or at least Korean Americans, is the game was assimilate, but it's like, but we stand out. So
But act as white as possible. Become a doctor. or
yeah,
lawyer.
like how? How would you mean assimilate and but like be yourself and like
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let's see if Asian parents are proud of their kids who are assimilating in other ways.
Becoming comedians and artists.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They are?
No, they are. My grandma definitely is. My dad, it took him a while, but now I added him to my family plan. So, he's
Family
not in the
plan.
plan a little bit.
What did he want for you when you were younger?
He wanted me to be completely mediocre, like
Safe.
government job, meat inspector. He wasn't the Asian parent that like wanted me to be a doctor. He wanted me to be like the guy who like the preps you before your mammogram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tech.
Like the tech. Yeah. Like
Liaison.
where you go on the subway subway
Yeah.
ads.
He wanted something reliable.
Yeah. Like
a
something practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't really with it.
But you
for-
went to a performing arts high school, right?
I did, yeah.
So couldn't he at least say that, hey, maybe this is where she's headed, or maybe this is what she's interested in?
I think he was okay with it at the time because it was a good school, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Like
Asian parents are fucking
they're weird. I think what they really just want for you is to be able to take care of yourself, and not have to worry about you when they die.
Yeah,
'cause they
but
always talk
some
about
of it's
dying.
prestige bullshit though too.
Yeah.
I live
So
with
that's
my
Korean.
parents.
That's Korean shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chinese
wanted a
people.
tech job.
your cousin
Yeah.
Chung is she going to Harvard, right?
Yeah, why are Koreans so competitive? That's what it is, right? It's like you want your son or daughter to do better than the other sons and daughters, and that's
It's hyper. That's how they I feel like that's kind of their way of encouraging you, being like, this is where the bar is and you can reach it. Why aren't
But
you
it is
reaching
interesting
it?
that she says that's the Korean side, and I think
Why aren't you reaching it?
are Koreans more focused on like the kind of
They're
outer?
hyper competitive.
I know, but they're really focused on like your accolades. and
if
like
you're gonna
their
do
title.
something, you better be the best. If you're not the bestest, get out. You're disowned.
I know. That's why we have so many good gamers, like so many good gaming teams come from Korea. It's intense. It's intense to be
Breakdancing
Korean.
teams,
Yeah, if you guys
K-pop. Like, why is there so many Korean dramas? Do you know the population of South Korea? The drinking. How much do they
Yeah.
consume per capita compared to Russians? And it's like compared to anybody actually, but it's
the suicide
ridiculous.
rate is very high. I think
Yeah,
they're like
it's-
4th in the world. I remember I looked up Japan's and they were like 18 point per 100,000, and the Korea's at 26 per 100,000. It's stressful being
Yeah.
Korean and living in Korea.
You're
It's
not the best.
jeez.
Like, don't even call yourself Korean.
Yeah, so it's like
Just
that
kidding.
question, are your parents proud of you? It's such a loaded question because it's like in what way?
You're like, well, I think they've kind of given up now.
they just want me to outlive them.
They just want. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going before we both start crying.
Meanwhile, I'm in my second drug rehab, right? My junior year in high school, right? And like I'm getting all Fs, right? Oh, David, he a lawyer now. Oh my God, his family is so happy. I'm proud, right? And I'm sitting there with fucking needle marks because of my arm,
my
shaking at the
God.
dinner table. Going, I don't even know how to live.
Yeah, and
Can I live?
Can I survive?
I'm on TV now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I say when people compare me. People.
I'm
on TV.
What happened was, my dad saw me on, I did Jay Leno as a stand-up in 2000, 1999.
Wow.
And I go, watch it. They go, no, you're not going to be on. I go, I'm going to be on. No, they don't have. I go, yeah. And I went on. I crushed it, right?
Yeah.
And they saw it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, they were both crying.
Oh.
And they felt guilt for all those years of not supporting me, and I
Yeah.
fucking reveled in it. If I could
Tears
just,
of
if I could
ignorance.
see that and go, fuck you, motherfuckers. You know, the fucking 7 years of open night mic bitches.
Open
I'll
night
fucking
mic.
not kill you, but you know what I mean?
I'll kill you.
Support me. I need love.
Well,
I need love.
that's what it takes for them. They have to see. Like my dad saw me on the cover of New York Magazine on his own.
Oh,
And it was at a time when we weren't even talking because he was so mad that I was doing this. And then that happened, and his coworker, he like went to his coworker, he's like, that's my daughter. And his coworker goes, oh, your daughter's Awkwafina. He was like a young Korean guy.
Yeah.
So until then, like he realized that it wasn't like bullshit.
Then he called you?
And well, yeah, our relationship was really bad until I think he realized that I was gonna make it work somehow.
Huh.
Like, she did it.
That's interesting. I think for both their parents, it's like it's really hard for them to see their child make it because they've never seen anything like it, right? But then
Well,
once
I think they're proud too. It's just they were so upset. They got the disappointment before because, you know what I mean? Like they
No,
were
but,
so
like-
disappointed that they were pursuing something they didn't see a way to make it.
right, but then once his dad saw him on Jay Leno and once her dad
Oh
saw
my
her on the
gosh,
cover of
yeah,
Time,
and
it's
it's
like that's like it's like the validation in like the best way possible for them. Where it's like, you know, instead of like having to assume that they're gonna make it or trying to imagine it, which is like really hard and worrying, it's like you see them and you're like, wow, this is
Yes.
better than anything I could have imagined. And so it's like, you know, it's like he's like sad because like 7 years of open mic night mics and like no
Practice, that's
support,
all
just
practice.
by himself, and he has to like
Yes.
make it by himself. And like, you know, his parents are probably hard on him because they want him to work hard, either at that
also,
or
they didn't want him. They know how he tries to avoid disappointment. So it's like, oh, what if he doesn't make it? But it's
Yeah.
like, well, he feels disappointed in himself anyways now. Always.
it's I guess
sucks,
yeah, it's
but-
hard to get the pride of your parents.
Not when they express it in a way that we're always going to interpret it as like disappointment almost.
All right, so we're gonna get into a really strange moment in the podcast. You and I talked about it, but Bobby Lee, I mean, he says they say on his show that he had like a mini stroke. But let's take a look at the clip. He talks about his dad and getting him on
Show.
a show. Well, actually, let's take a look at the clip first, and then I'll explain it.
They got on Afra because when I was on Mad TV, we wrote sketches for them. So they would guest star
Really?
on Matt TV.
What?
And then my dad would get like residual checks.
Oh my
And
god.
he'd call me, "Hey, Bobby, I got another $500."
That's awesome.
Oh my God. His dad makes more from Mad TV than Dave Chappelle makes from The Chappelle Show. But okay, so what he's explaining is AFRA is an actors union. And it's really hard to get into because you need speaking lines. And speaking lines, like, you can't just be like a guest. Like,
An
you actually
extra
have.
or
Yeah,
a-
you can't be
yeah.
just an extra. You have to be a legitimate, like, speaking role in a movie or TVs. And so what he did on Mad TV was he got his parents speaking roles so that they can get residual checks every time he can
every
get
time it
so
was
his
played.
yeah he can get speaking roles so his parents could get into the union and then get the residual checks every time it's played. So that's the situation.
Your dad's part of the union?
Yeah.
That's so
He got
That's
in.
awesome.
Yeah. And then when we did, I did a pilot for Comedy Central. This was never, anyone listening, never use your fucking immigrant dad for a pilot.
Your real dad.
Write that down, everyone.
Your real fucking dad.
That's what Aziz Ansari
I mean,
did.
it sounds
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it sounds
he
like a
did.
good idea in theory.
My dad, because my dad had a page to memorize, which was a mistake.
Too much.
Too much, yeah.
And
Page.
I show up on the set, and my brother goes, "We don't know where dad is. He left."
He quit.
Yeah. And then he was across the street trying to buy liquor because he wanted to get drunk.
He was stressed out.
He was stressed out.
Oh my god.
And then when he showed up on the set, they said action. He blanked.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk.
Yeah, that's always a weird situation when you put your parents on.
And then my brother had to feed him every line.
Oh.
It was so embarrassing.
Yeah, that's why you gotta hire someone from the back pages, and just let them be embarrassing by them.
Yeah. What are you doing tomorrow? Do we know?
Wait, what?
The TV show.
We kind of talked about it.
We did talk about it. Yeah. I forgot. I just blanked for some reason.
I just have it.
Sometimes that
What the fuck just happened?
I was
That
just
was
sitting here. I was
That
like,
was like
What did I just do?
transient.
Glitched.
So you say disassociated. When I first watched this, they were talking about like a mini stroke.
Ischemic attack. Did you have a stroke?
No, I don't know what happened. I just
What?
like my mind just fucking.
drink some water. Holy
Now you're tripping me out.
That scared the crap out of me, bro.
All right, so let's take a look at that again. So he's talking about this is where it gets like really
Watch his face.
Yes,
and
watch-
his emotions.
watch Bobby's face because
He's like trying to process the disappointment, and I don't know. For me, it looks like
for me
he can't get out of it, and then something else comes in,
Yeah.
his scheduler, and is like, "What's going on tomorrow?"
right. So for me
No meltdown in
where it
business.
starts is he feels embarrassed for his dad. I think he's a
Yes.
really like empathetic person, so he can really feel when someone feels something, and that like he shoulders, and you really see it in his face when he starts talking about how embarrassing it was for him. So let's take a look
Yes.
one more time.
Too much.
And I show up on the set, and my brother goes, "We don't know where dad is. He left."
He quit.
Yeah. And then he was across the street trying to buy liquor because he wanted to get drunk.
He was stressed out.
He was stressed out.
Oh my god.
And then when he showed up on the set, they said action. He blanked.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk.
Yeah.
So he's like fine right until now, like right until like he's explaining the story like completely fine.
Well,
Even
it's when
she-
he's about to lose control, when it looked like he was either about to cry or
Yeah.
get very like
Yeah.
upset. Something he couldn't pull himself out of that, and then all of a sudden he switched subject. Like
Yeah.
the person came in. Like,
Yeah, right when he talks about the embarrassment.
It's a weird situation when you put your parents on.
And then my brother had to feed him every line.
Oh.
It was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Oh, see, like this is like a real, like he really feels like he's
well,
not
I
making
think
a
he
face.
was also gonna try to laugh, but
Yeah.
he couldn't pull out of it.
Yes, and so this
So
is
he
where
was
you
about
said,
to cry, and it was like,
yeah, this is
get
where you
out.
pointed out, he disassociated. Like he didn't want to laugh or cry on the air, so he just snapped into like schedule mode. And that's how he like deflected like the situation. But it's like there's a lot of pain, and that's why like it. The second time I watched this, it's like wow, it's a really interesting moment.
That's why you gotta hire someone from the back pages, and just let them be embarrassing by them.
Yeah. What are you doing tomorrow? Do we know?
Wait, what?
The TV show.
We kind of talked about it.
We did talk about it. Yeah. I forgot.
You know, and that's actually like I give him a lot of props for that
No, but I can
because
see why they were worried and thought it was like a stroke.
yeah,
that
because
is-
it's completely random. It's like you change who changes the subject right in the middle of them talking.
And you can't say, "Oh, he's drinking" or "he's high" or
Right.
something. You can't even say anything about what like.
Well, I don't know. Like, what kind of advice do you give to people who are just like overwhelmed like that? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I give him props. I think he did a decent job.
No, but that's a coping mechanism that will eventually catch up to you if you don't process those
Yeah.
emotions, or get through them without. You can't just laugh your way through. Like I think he wanted to laugh about it.
Yeah.
But there was like a hiccup.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's not comfortable with crying. Maybe
For sure.
yeah.
Or
And that's
or
why his
something, or
coping
just
mechanism for whenever he
thinking
feels like he
that-
wants to cry is to just immediately go to something else.
Or when you can't walk through it because it's not just embarrassment, it's also his own feelings of like disappointment too, which is a strong feeling he feels about like, I put you on the show. And, like there's so many strong emotions. Like you said, with someone who's very empathetic, then it gets really confusing and you don't even know how to process that. But that's why they say therapy and counseling help, because if you can get it out, especially to someone you don't even care, if you don't care because they're not there to judge you, they're just there to help you process through it,
Yeah.
then you can unravel those
Yeah.
extreme emotions. I don't know. I'm like, I would hope he's not having a stroke. I hope it's only that, because that's easier to manage than like if he's got blood pressure issues.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, Bobby, if you want to come over and have a good cry, let us know.
It's blank for some reason.
I just have it.
What the fuck? What the fuck just happened?
I was just sitting here. I was
That
like,
was like
What did I just do?
transient ischemic attack. Do you have a stroke?
No,
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened. I just
What? Just-
like my mind just fucking.
drink some water. Holy
Now you're tripping me out.
That scared the crap out of me, bro.
I'm so sorry.
I thought he was doing a joke to you, so I was like, "Oh, what's the joke?" And I'm like,
No, I
"Oh
thought,
no."
yeah.
What the fuck just happened just now?
All right, so we don't want to end this video on a sad note. Do you remember when I asked you? I was like, I think a couple days ago, I asked, do you know what, or do you know Awkwafina? And you said, yeah, Pepsi.
Pepsi water? Pepsi without the additives.
Right, and I was like, oh yeah, there's Awkwafina the water. Anyways, you're not the first person to mistake Awkwafina.
Something really bizarre happened to me in San Francisco. I got picked up by this older Russian guy in an Uber.
Okay.
And he was like, "Oh my God, are you a celebrity?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a celebrity, but
Yeah.
I've been in stuff." And he was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're like in my cab. Like, I'm a huge fan. Like, my wife is in a thick Russian accent,
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, my kids are fans. Like, we love all your stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's sick, And I was going to a show, so I guess I had makeup on, but still. And then I got out, and he was like, I have to take a picture with you, to show my wife. And I was like, okay, sure. So I got out, and he was like, oh, Zhang Ziyi.
Oh, crouching tiger.
He thought that I was Zhang Ziyi.
And also, what else has she done but that?
Crouching
No,
tiger.
I know. I was like, I love
Yeah.
your work. I was like, what?
Yeah. And she has a thick accent, probably.
And
right?
she's
Yeah,
like a really hot.
Zhangzi, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think she was in Rush Hour 2? 2 or 3.
The one with the princess sister? I mean, the
Princess Sister? I thought that was Lucy Liu.
Okay.
Lucy Liu played the princess, I think.
his sister.
Oh, maybe. There's also Memoirs of the Geisha. She's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's been in stuff, but she's not American. She's Chinese.
I know, the guy that mistaken her. They don't. I don't know. I don't think they look alike. I should have gotten a picture. Maybe I'm not Russian enough.
When I lived in Cuba, I think my biggest pet peeve, they always confuse me. There's only one other person in our cohort that was Asian. In the whole American delegation that was there in Cuba, there's one other Asian person who was Chinese, and we didn't even look alike. We weren't even the same year, and everybody would get us confused. Everybody. It was so
I guess if
crazy. Like she was yeah.
I know, that's so interesting. I guess if you've only ever seen like one, I don't know, like one like cat in your life. I don't know. I forget it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
it's hard. Maybe they just it's like if they've never been exposed to those facial features, they can't tell them apart. Same with like learning language. If they haven't been exposed to a certain sound before a certain age, they won't, when they're adults, be able to differentiate those sounds.
I guess, yeah, it just goes to show that the human face, like the nuances in the human faces are so small that it's actually like we're a lot more similar looking than we think.
Yes.
Maybe.
But for people who've been around
a
lot of
people who are very
come on, there's huge differences.
Yeah,
but
people who are exposed to those nuances frequently would probably not would have a lot easier of a time differentiating between those people.
Yeah, it's like how my parents might confuse some of my white friends or black friends or like anything non-Asian. They'd be like, "Oh, is that one this one?" It's like, "What? No."
All right. Well, that's it for this episode. If you're an insecure Asian, go check out our merch store or our other videos. And
an insecure American.
Yeah, if you're an insecure anything, welcome. Yeah, we're all in this together. Imposter syndrome,
USA,
no problem.
USA.
We're all imposters. So if you feel like an imposter,
we're all immigrants.
You actually
immigrant
fit in.
syndrome. I'm calling it immigrant syndrome. Immigrant syndrome.
Go check out our merch store for buds. But if you don't have buds, we're your buds. We'll see you.
If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe.